Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. This is Atmospheric Alex here with another update on now Hurricane Milton. And yes, I know what I said last video. Let's pray to all goodness this isn't a hurricane by the time I make today's video. Well, here we are. Hurricane Milton, now with 80-mile-an-hour winds. We will be looking at that in depth very shortly here. Alright, and here's your current satellite imagery for Hurricane Milton. And my goodness, it has really began to intensify here over this afternoon. You can see tons of convection ongoing, starting to wrap around the center on our latest frames here. This is going to allow for Milton to rapidly, to even explosively intensify over the next few days, or even less than that at this point. So that, certainly is a massive concern. And earlier on, I was looking at the satellite imagery thinking, okay, we have all this convection ongoing here, but we don't have two vertical hot towers rotating around the center yet. Well, it's not going to intensify yet, right? 2 hours after I thought about that. Boom, boom, whoop, whoop, and yeah, that's not good to see. So rapid intensification has begun on Milton as we speak. So here's your current track guidance for Milton. As you can see, sustained winds of 80 miles an hour right now, and we're moving due east at 6 miles an hour. So as of now, we do expect this to become a major hurricane by tomorrow evening. I think this will certainly be sooner than that if we continue to see our cloud tops get taller and start to rotate a lot more. And then, of course, well, there it is. Major hurricane approaching, Tampa? Near Tampa? So the situation has not changed from yesterday, unfortunately. But we could see this slicing across the state. Look at that. Hurricane conditions all the way through central Florida. Talking Orlando, Disney in there too. And exiting out the other side. Very significant concerns. And there will, for sure, be hurricane warnings here that will be issued very, very soon, probably this evening. Also important to note that we have tropical storm warnings for the northern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula, as this system begins to dive a little bit further south here, so we shall see. Will this clip the tip here? And that will matter a lot on future intensity. So, since we don't have nearly as much to talk about in today's video, because nothing much has really changed, we're going to take a look at our key messages here for Hurricane Milton here. No longer a tropical storm, right? Alright, let's start with point 1. Alright, Milton is forecast to quickly intensify, I think rapidly intensify, to be completely honest, while it moves eastward to northeastward across the Gulf of Mexico and be a major hurricane when it reaches the west coast of the Florida Peninsula midweek. Right? Users are reminded to not focus on the details of the forecast, as there remains significant uncertainty in the eventual track and intensity of Milton. So, even if Milton becomes, say, a Cat 5 in the Gulf, but then weakens all the way down to a high-end tropical storm at landfall, you're still going to have a lot of impacts for certain here. And, of course, with the track, Milton, might go a little bit off to the north or a little bit off to the south of Tampa. We'll see. It could impact Fort Myers instead, and we'll get into that with the models. So, while it's too soon to specify the exact magnitude and location of the greatest impacts, there is an increasing risk of life-threatening storm surge and damaging winds for portions of the west coast of Florida Peninsula beginning Tuesday night and early Wednesday. That's important. Storm surge and hurricane watches could be issued later today or tonight. Residents in the Florida Peninsula should follow any advice given by local officials and check back for updates to the forecast. Once again, I said this yesterday. You need to be checking the National Hurricane Center 4 times a day at the very least. Something might change and, maybe it'll head more towards Tampa. Maybe it'll head more towards Fort Myers. Maybe it'll go a little off to north or south of that even. We'll just have to wait and see. Areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida today and Monday, well ahead of Milton. So again, we have a predecessor rainfall event ongoing, a PRE for short. And, well, this is kind of similar to what we saw with Helene, except this is happening over flat land and it's a lot less significant. But you could see significant flooding. And there's heavy rainfall more directly related to the system expected later on Tuesday through Wednesday night. This rainfall will bring the risk of flash urban and aerial flooding, along with the potential of moderate to major river flooding. Okay? Very important to keep that in mind. And then tropical storm conditions on the Yucatan Peninsula on Monday. I mean, that's pretty much set in stone at this point. So we did, in fact, just mention the storm surge a little bit, and we're going to take a look at our nice little interactive map here, and I want you to keep this in mind as we go through this lengthy storm surge discussion, okay? The blue boxes here, greater than 1 foot above ground storm surge. Yellow, greater than 3 feet. The orange, greater than 6 feet, and the red down here is greater than 9 feet. So extremely important when we take a look at this map and we zoom you all into it, just so you know the scale we're looking off of. Alright, now as we take a close-in, zoomed-in view here at our storm surge, you can see tons of it across the bay. This is just absolutely outrageous. You see a lot of 3 to 6 to even 9 foot regions in here. Take a look at that. This area to the southeast of Tampa, the metro, could see over 9 to 10 feet of storm surge. Other areas in those regions as well. So that, indeed, is going to be a problem. You can even see some of your river flooding out here as well. And with that being said, I kind of want to take an even more zoomed in view on this. So we are once again taking a look at your surging seas risk zone map here as provided. And let's go ahead and take a bit of a zoomed in look. This is roughly 8 feet of storm surge here and what it could possibly do. Well, as you can see, lots of neighborhoods underwater completely. Look at over here. Underwater. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not going to go into all that in detail. I did yesterday, but this is ridiculous. And there's one over here as well. And then all that back in that area too. But I have a feeling storm surge won't be as significant there as it will be in the bay. And it just keeps going on. I'm going to quickly zoom into this area, and I'm just going to rip the band-aid straight off. We're going to go up to 10 feet here. And this is kind of your mid-range scenario here, if you think about it. You can see a lot of areas. South of Tampa, talk about avenues, drives, streets, homes, buildings, underwater, everywhere, basically. You know, this is absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to move further south here. And a very large area is just turning into the ocean at that point. Look at this. This is absolutely ridiculous here. Tons of homes underwater. Not what you want to see. And this flooding, this storm surge, will go well into these nearby rivers as well. Take a look at how far downstream this goes. Goodness. Oh my goodness. Probably, we're talking about 10 to even 20 miles inland here. So, storm surge will be having a long-lasting and long-reaching effect across the board. But Alex, you know, you were talking about a worst-case scenario, right? What theoretically could happen at the high-end ceiling? You know, if this hurricane doesn't weaken nearly as fast, which is what one of our hurricane models are suggesting, it's just one, but it's one that has been accurate time and time and time again. and it's one that everybody used to use, all the professionals, everyone. If this model showed this, it was going to be a bad storm. Well, not trying to spoil anything, but it does show a major hurricane funneling a ridiculous amount of storm surge just to the north of Tampa. So, what is your high-end scenario out of all this? We're going to take this up to 5 meters or 15 feet. Some localized spots might reach this. Not everyone will, though. Good night. I don't have any words for this. You have just large areas underwater. Going well inland, might I add. Goodness. Goodness. Look at all these communities along the river here, because that river, that's going to be flooding pretty big time. And all these neighborhoods in here, if we see the high-end scenario, you better buckle up. You better brace for this. Look at further downstream. Well over 1,000 people are going to be completely in the ocean at this point. In this tiny, tiny area. All of them in the ocean. They're going to be like fishes swimming in the ocean. This is insane. This, in particular, is what all of us, weather enthusiasts, meteorologists, are praying doesn't happen. If the wind shear doesn't weaken this system nearly as much at landfall, well, this could end up being probably one of the worst hurricanes we've seen this year, for Florida in particular. Nothing's going to beat Helene, obviously, but then you look further downstream. Okay, there's a lot of people here who are very far inland, who would have to drive quite the distance to get to the beach, who could go underwater with this. You need to prepare right now. And in fact, you need to consider getting out of there right now. There's going to be mandatory evacuations for a very large area here, undoubtedly. And we're going to throw this back to 10 feet, actually 8 feet, and we're going to zoom out, because I don't want to be fear-mongering, zooming out the map on the wrong portions here. But, yeah, blues just everywhere. There's a lot of population in this, too. This is not just rural areas. You need to keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that this could be a potentially historic situation unfolding. And I would be shocked if we didn't see mandatory evacuations all across these areas here. I'm even going to go out a little bit further on this one. Yes, this is going to be a very serious storm system here. I mean, this is not good. Not good at all. So, we better be praying that high-end scenario doesn't come to fruition, or, yeah, we're in trouble. Well, that's not the only area getting impacted. No. What about if this trends further south? And so we see our storm surge down here. Remember what Ian did? Want to do it again? Look at this. Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Charlotte Harbor, this whole area. Oh gosh, all underwater. Look at that. Half of Port Charlotte is just underwater. This is Punta Gorda underwater. Cape Coral, a fairly large city, underwater, especially near the bay. Well, what if this trends even further south and we see 10 feet of storm surge? Yeah, just basically at this point, I wish there wasn't so much track uncertainty, because now we have not only Tampa, but Cape Coral, Charlotte Harbor to watch out for. Seriously? You gotta prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Okay, and now we're going to take a quick little look at our aircraft reconnaissance mission into Milton here. Yeah, Yeah, we're talking about already upwards of hurricane-forced winds. So this thing is indeed beginning to rapidly intensify. Well, before any models really said that was going to happen. We're well ahead of schedule, folks, and we need to be taking this very seriously. And let's take a look at our intensity guidance. We have two paths. Both of them are horrible. I mean, we could either see, guess what, a Category 4 hurricane, or guess what, a Category 5 hurricane. That's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, it's fantastic. This is basically, I'd say, your mid-range scenario and then your high-end scenario. That's kind of crazy. But, on other terms, look at this sharp weakening before landfall here. Now, not every model shows us the same way, but we do expect some pretty considerable weakening right at landfall due to a ton of wind shear interaction. This is the good news. So we're expecting a peak of likely Category 4, but a landfall, maybe a Category 2, maybe a 3. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, of course, if this goes all the way up here in a mid-range Cat 5, well, it's probably going to take a lot longer to spin down. That's a lot sharper, but then you might be talking about Cat 4 at landfall. We need to watch this. And again, if it's near Tampa, yeah, better hope it isn't. Now I'm going to show you something a little bit different. That's a lot more meteorological, so a lot more interesting here. We're taking a look at our SHIPS, your SHIPS model. So statistical intensification probabilities, basically. And you can see this model is advocating for rapid intensification here. So we're seeing all of our plots lighting up a lot here. So we're looking at our most likely scenario of 25 knots in 24 hours or 30 knots in 24 hours, which sounds ridiculous. That means by tomorrow, at kind of around the same time I make tomorrow's video, we could be talking about a major hurricane. That's early on, isn't it? Well, yep. And that's what we're talking about. But like I said, you even have some that show 45 knots in 36 hours. Those models in particular want Milton to be a Category 4 hurricane on Tuesday morning, which kinda sounds realistic when you think about it. This thing will be undergoing some rapid to explosive intensification, and you can see why, you know. We have ocean heat content. I would actually ignore this chart. It's totally wrong. You're going to have OHC values upwards around 200, not 50. I don't know what this thing is on. It's wrong, though. You're going to have your relative humidity values that gradually sink over time. So that is something to consider, right? Or get down to 50%. Not as far down as some of your hurricane models show, which is very concerning. And if we don't see as much dry air get ingested, well, the system won't weaken as fast. Simple as that. Over here, sea surface temperatures, yeah, I mean, pretty much good to go here. Very warm, hot sea surface temperatures in the mid-80s there. Your wind shear forecast, well, it's going to be a bit tricky. Basically nothing early on, so you're going to have pristine conditions for intensification, but right before landfall, it goes up and up and up, and up a little bit, but 35 knots, if you have a well-bonafide Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane with a very strong inner core, I don't see it weakening that much. Not to the extent that, say, the halves A, the halves B, the H mod are showing. We'll have to wait and see, though. This, yeah, your upper end ceiling. Some models show that, but we'll see. Your maximum winds, yeah, they're pretty good there. Upwards of a Category 3. So we can infer ocean heat content, sufficient. Moisture, I will say, is a bit, yeah, it's there, but it's not the best I've seen. Sea surface temperatures, yes, it's for sure there. Wind shear, again, not the best, not the worst either, believe it or not. Expected that to be higher. You have, I mean, yeah, and then your actual forecasts I do agree with. So notice how there are no red X's here that I drew in. So this thing is prone to exploding very soon. Alright, now for your zoomed in track guidance here, you can see there are quite a few models here showing it going really close to Tampa in here, so you need to watch out closely. You have a batch up to the north and you have a batch down here. You have essentially 3 camps, alright, ongoing. Camp number 1 brings the system a lot further north up towards Cedar Key. I do not believe this is possible at the moment. I really don't. It seems a little bit strange, alright, considering your steering patterns, very important. So I really do believe this will stay in its bounds. Camp number 2 goes straight through Tampa. Not what you want to see. Tons of storm surge funneling up the bay. Couple of those tracks go slightly further south, so that's the good news there. But this is where the NHC is in line right now. I'd say that's a decent forecast. Camp 3 is down near Fort Myers here into Cape Coral. So this is your further south scenario. I don't really think this is going to happen because your system's going to intensify fast, which will naturally, even if it tries to take this path, will curve it up to the north like that. So probably not going to happen down here, as you can see. So at the current point in time, really I'm honing in on camp number 2 near Tampa. Alright, so we're now going to take a look at your hurricane models. I already did a section on this, but I don't think I was being serious enough here, so we're just going to kind of take it as it is rather than overanalyze. You can see our HWRF model is initializing quite well here, 987 millibars, a little bit weaker than Aircraft Recon, I will say, and this does begin to rapidly intensify tonight. Even though it already is, but you can see tomorrow morning does show a major hurricane potential. We'll have to see. It definitely could get up to that strength considering how tiny our core is right now. And you can see it continuing to really rapidly intensify, and 936 millibars, look at that, by Tuesday morning. Very serious storm. And Milton continues on this model, down to potentially a Category 5 hurricane here by Tuesday evening. And just take a look at this. This really becomes a concern here for the Tampa area. This thing goes just off to the north as a powerful Cat 3 to Cat 4 hurricane. And your storm surge in here would be potentially unprecedented in a scenario like this. You do have certainly a lot of wind that is rotating around into the bay there, which will push a lot of water up. Now, it is important to note that this model in particular is definitely showing a different scenario, but in my opinion could be a little more accurate because it doesn't show your rapid explosive weakening that your other ones show, which I'm very skeptical about at this point in time. And this moves really slowly around landfall, we'll see, and just crushes straight through Florida, just slices through as a hurricane all the way through. Very concerning look. Now your HMON model, initialized fairly well here, 985, and we are seeing this in time, potentially a major hurricane by tomorrow morning, so we have pretty good agreement there, and I would say, looking at latest satellite trends, might be onto something here, we'll see. And this continues to intensify upwards, all the way upwards of about a Category 5 hurricane on Wednesday morning. Yeah, this is a very strong system, isn't it? And this begins to really race off to the northeast. It actually kind of slows down a little and weakens way too rapidly. I would honestly think about disregarding this model a little, but we're still, as you can see, 90 hours out, so there is time for this to change, for it to waffle back and forth on its track or its intensity. Now, your HAFS models are a lot more concerning with this system as it stands. As of right now, we're talking decent initialization, 985 millibars. This will continue to drop fast, though. And you can see tomorrow morning, potentially Cat 2, Cat 3, and it really explodes to north of the Yucatan. A lot of models have been showing this for a long time now. These potentially a little too aggressive, but again, your upper end ceiling, very, very high with this system, considering we don't have much to stop it just yet. 908 millibars. Oh my gosh. Yeah, very well into Category 5 strength. Thank goodness these models aren't the most accurate in the world. They haven't done the best this hurricane season, so that's good news. And this does weaken a lot. Even still, Category 3 major hurricane landfall here. All your storm surge really funneling up the bay here. I can't stop mentioning Tampa. It's Tampa every single time I talk about these models, because that's where they all are right now, and that is just not what you want to see. Moves in, weakens, like I said, a little too fast, but we won't know this for a while. Again, Thursday morning. It's only Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, so we have a long way to go. Now, your Halves B model going way too aggressive here off the docket. We're talking about major hurricane tomorrow morning, everything like that, and this really does explode. Just take a look at that. 901 millibars. That is very strong, and unfortunately, again, with the new recon data that was input into the models, this isn't so far-fetched anymore. So, we'll have to see. I really want to rule this scenario out. This is kind of aggressive, but at this point, all we can do is hope. We just gotta hope. And it shows a powerful Category 3 landfall here. And just take a look at all that storm surge funneling up the bay. Wow. Yeah, this is what we're talking about here. Very substantial system. And, you know, goes right over the city of Tampa here as a powerful Category 2 hurricane. Don't let the rain rates deceive you here. Very strong, damaging, destructive hurricane force winds on all quadrants here of the system. Well, that's going to do it with today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. And before we go, let's take one last look at satellite imagery. And this thing, this is looking very concerning. Now you have convection wrapping around the whole system. I do expect this to rapidly intensify, or it is right now, but it'll continue through tonight and probably through the rest of its life until it approaches Florida. But thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button if you wish, and maybe even subscribe to my Corner of the Weather community. Hit the bell notification icon to get notified when I upload next. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And don't worry yourselves to death over this system, please. Just get prepared now. That's all I ask. If you're ordered to evacuate, you better evacuate. Especially Tampa Bay region here, Fort Myers region here needs to take this very seriously. All right, have a wonderful night and stay safe.